Welcome to Inspired Edinburgh, powerful conversations helping you reconnect with your purpose. I'm Elliot Reeves, and my guest today is Jamie Ramsay. Jamie is an endurance adventurer, a speaker, and a writer. Jamie, in 2014, you set off on an unsupported solo 18,000 kilometre run across 2 continents and through 14 countries from Vancouver, Canada to Buenos Aires, Argentina, completing it in, I believe, 475 days, and you've since acquired the moniker the British Forrest Gump. In addition to this, you've completed the 3 Peaks Run, Scottish Isles Run, a cycle from Edinburgh to London, as well as a number of international marathons. Absolutely incredible. Jamie, it's fantastic to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me here. And sounds like a lot of running when you say it all out in a list, but yeah, I have done all of that. So.
Sounds like a horrendous amount of running.
Yeah, if you ask my knees, they will concur. It's a hell of a lot of running.
Great. So you're originally from Scotland. Tell us a bit about your background and what growing up here was like for you.
Yeah, so I grew up in Haddington, which is just about 20 minutes east of Edinburgh. Grew up in the country, so lots of... luckily I had a little brother, so the two of us would play lots out and like running out in the woods and in the fields. And I went to school in Dunbar, and then after that I moved to Musselburgh, where I went to school there. And I left Edinburgh probably when I was 18 to go to Australia, where I was a kind of tutor in a school for a year. And then I returned, and then went to Oxford Brookes, and then I worked in London after that. Yeah. But Edinburgh has always been like my kind of home. Well, Scotland's always been my home. There's a kind of weird, when you're on a train and you cross that border at Berwick and you're coming down across that kind of east coast coming into Edinburgh, there's a sense of like, I am back home. And I don't know, there's something about the pace of life and the people and the sense of community. Even though a lot of the people that I grew up with have moved away or kind of started lives in different parts of the country, just every time I come back here, it's just like kind of, yes, I'm Scottish and I'm home. And so I had a very lucky upbringing. I was allowed to try lots of different things, which allowed me to like do running and swimming and sailing and kayaking and horse riding. And so I've always been outdoors. And I think if you look back at my school reports, they would probably say academically, not the most advanced, but tries very hard. And then more of a sporty person is where I've kind of excelled in the past. But
got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. So what was the kind of work that you were doing in London when you were working there?
So at university, I did economics and information systems.
Okay.
And I moved to London, worked in a bar, and then managed to get a job in financial communications. And I worked in financial communications for 12 years, started off as a graduate and worked my way up to being a partner.
Wow.
But it kind of, for me, the strange thing about that decision was I was following something that I never actually wanted to do. So I think as a kind of, as a young boy, you watch your father get dressed every day, put on a tie, go to the office, look cool, pay for all the stuff you're doing. And you're like, one day I want to do what he's doing and I want to go to the city. And I think you slowly put an expectation on yourself. And no one else is putting that expectation on you. I think it's a subconscious thing you do yourself. So when it came to like choosing university courses, economics, information systems was because it wasn't me following a passion. It was me thinking, what do I think other people think I should be doing with my life? And they're like, economics sounds good, information systems sounds good. You do that, and then you end up in a job that pays well, with good kind of prospects, and again there's that approval, everyone will think you're doing well, and you end up in a job and you do that for 12 years like I did. So, and it was, I would never knock the job. I would say that the skills I learned from working in communications, I had a boss who was a very good boss. He was excellent at what he did, and I learned a lot from him, and the skills I had and I've acquired through that job have given me a good basis for doing other things that I've done with my life since that time. So
yeah. So do you think your parents played a part in what you did? Did they have a hand in kind of trying to steer you down that route, or was it just something that you decided that you kind of wanted to do yourself?
No, as I said, I think it wasn't, and no one was saying you need to go to the city. No one was saying you need to have this job.
Yeah.
That was what I perceived from what everyone around me was doing, where they were going, and everyone's being successful, and you want to fit in, you want to follow the same route as everyone else. And my parents have always allowed me to try everything and do everything. And when I was 17, I came up with an idea. It was britpub.com, and I wanted to get a review of every single pub in the whole of Britain.
Oh, wow.
And they paid like a subscription. And rather than knocking it, I was taken down to the local bank, and we got like a Britpub bank account kind of set up, and we started building the website. And at no point did they say, no, this is a silly idea. They kind of probably knew that it was going to die out pretty quickly. And I realised I couldn't drive to go to the pubs, and there was no way I was going to be able to do it.
But I had that. I couldn't drink at 17 either.
I could, yeah, exactly. But I had this idea, and they allowed me to follow it. But I think I fell into this job. And then I think it's quite easy to get trapped. You get paid money to do a certain thing, which enables you to have a house, which enables you to get a car. And then you become, the society makes you dependent on the fact that you have that job. Yeah. So you feel trapped in this job. And I think that partly I probably wasn't brave enough to admit to myself that I wasn't happy in this job. All the signs were there. And I knew it, but to move on to another job was huge. It's like uncertainty. Will I get another job? Will it pay as well? Will I be as good at it? I'm here. I'm doing a job. No one's firing me. They're giving me pay rises, and my title keeps changing. So there must be. Everyone else will tell me that I'm doing the right thing. So kind of outwards, I was on the success path, and I could have probably ridden it out. But the problem is my heart wasn't in it. It wasn't what I wanted to do. So that was a kind of a conundrum for me, aged 34 in London.
Okay. So. And was it like a light bulb moment, an epiphany, or was it more of a gradual thing? How did you come about realizing that it wasn't the thing for you?
So I think it was a two-stage process. In June 2013, so I've always been a runner. So running has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. I started running when I was at school. I remember clearly there was a day when I was at the back of the field. Everyone was running ahead. Me and my best mate were chatting away and just arsing around at the back. And a teacher came up, literally kicked me up the arse and said, if you don't get to the front of this race, you're in detention. So I was like, wow, I better run. And then that's when I learned I could run. So I ran, and then I kind of carried on doing running in sports, and then I did a marathon, and I always like going one up. So I did a marathon, did another marathon. I was like, I've already done this. Let's do a marathon and a safari park. Let's do something bigger. June 2013, I'd entered into a race called the Vietnam. It was a Vietnam ultra marathon. It was like the Marathon des Sables, so it was 6 days through the Vietnamese jungle, back on backpack with all your stuff, and you go and do it. So I bought the ticket. I was raising money for the STV appeal. I bought the kit. I'd done all the training. Everything was ready, and they cancelled the race. I was like, what do I do? And it could have been very easy. I could have at that point said, right, it's not meant to be. I'm just not doing it here. Someone's given me the excuse to pull out.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then I thought, well, I've already told all these people I'm doing it. I've already put in all the work. Let's just fly to Vietnam and do it anyway. So I flew to Vietnam, put on the backpack, and ran 6 days by myself down the road, finding places to stay at the end of the day. And it was brilliant. And I had I realized that all my passions were there in kind of this run. And I got to the end, I thought, I wish I could do this as a job. I wish this could be my life. Fast forward 6 months, I got a promotion, made partner. And the circumstances behind that promotion, I would say, were not exactly what one would normally expect. It was a bit of an in-house political kind of thing. And some people were disgruntled that maybe I might have been made a partner. I was just happy because I got more money, and I wasn't ambitious in titles. And anyway, I decided, wait a minute, I'm in a job that I hate. People around me don't think I deserve the job that I'm in. What am I doing? And I was like, what do I want to do? And my mind flipped back to this time when I had that moment where I was like, you're happy. Right now, you are happy. So I went back to that moment. I was like, God, I've always wanted to be an adventurer. That's what I wanted to do. And I looked up to people like Ben Fogels and the James Cracknells and all these people who were doing what they wanted to do. And I was like, but that's what I want to do what they're doing. And then I kind of realized that no one had told me I couldn't do that, because I'd never voiced this desire to anyone. So I was like, well, no one's told me I can't do it, so maybe I could do it. So that's when I started kind of saying to people, I've got this idea, I'm going to go and do this thing. And I have a process. My process is come up with a stupid idea, tell a few people, they'll tell you not to do it. If they don't, you move up to the next more important people to you. They're more important, someone will tell you you're being stupid. And I went all the way up the thing. I was like, I'm going to go and do this thing. And everyone's like, if anyone can do it, you can. And I was like, where does all this belief in me come from? Like, I don't understand. So I went all the way up and I was like, well, I'm about to quit a job where I'm a partner. And this is crazy. So I wrote my dad a really long email. I was like, Dad, you have given me the best opportunities in life. You paid for my education and university, and I'm now here, and I'm going to pack it all in and I'm going to go and run across 2 continents. And I spent ages and I fretted about this email I'd sent. I don't think he replied on the first day, and I was like, oh my God, what's happening here? And the next day he just replied to me saying, if you've got to go, you've got to go. That was it. And I was like, wow. So even my father, who is like the guy who's raised me and I look up to, he's on board with this idea. He didn't say he was happy, but he was on board with this idea. And that just made me think, well, you know, what's holding me back? Let's just go and do it. And I quit my job to go and run across 2 continents. And that was how I ended up in Vancouver with a baby stroller.
Yeah,
which is, so that's,
that's such an incredible story.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But, you know, there's probably people that have been in that sort of position before, right? So they don't like their job and they want to do something else, whether it's running across, continents or something creative. But there's usually obstacles, and I think a lot of people try and justify to themselves why they shouldn't or can't. So how did you go about, like, for example, finance presumably was going to be an issue. Like, did you just decide that, well, you'll struggle on and did that cross your...
Look, when you say justify, I would say that people look for excuses. Human beings, we all do it on a daily basis. We're like, well, I could do that, but I'm not going to. I think we grasp at reasons not to do stuff. I could have done that, and you hear of lots of people who say, I'm going to go and do this thing, and then they go, oh, I just didn't get the money. And I didn't have the money. I had enough money. I knew I had enough money probably to get me to the end of Central America, into South America, but not right to the end. And I was like, I could use this as an excuse. This could be an excuse why I don't do this. And I thought, wait a minute, if I'm doing something, first of all, if I manage to run across America, that is success. I've achieved something. If I manage to run across Central America, that's success. So I've achieved even more. So I wouldn't be embarrassed, I wouldn't have failed. And then I thought, if I'm doing something positive and people are behind it and people are interested, money will find its way to me. And I had on my website, you can donate to charity or you can donate to me. And people did donate to me, and people would give me money on the road, and people helped me out, and I got a couple of things. You're doing something positive things will attract you. I ended up with brands pay me some money to kind of make videos, and that it all kind of fell into place. But I think I will fully accept, because it's very easy for a guy to say, I did this thing so anyone else can do what they want. I was a 34-year-old single man who had no kids, and I didn't have commitments. So I could drop everything and go and do this challenge. But a lot of people who want to go and do multi-month running expeditions or cycling, there are not that many of us. There are lots of people who want to challenge themselves in other ways. Like, challenging yourself doesn't have to be physical. It can be mental, it can be artistic, it can be lots of different things you can do. And I think a lot of people get involved in this idea that they have to have a certain amount of stuff. There's a kind of level you need to have, and you need to have all this stuff in your life to be happy, because that's what society tells you. You need to do this, you need to do that. You know, your car should be as good as your next door neighbour's, and your house needs to be big, and you need to have 3 spare rooms and all this kind of, people think that. So they kill themselves day in, day out to provide for a whole bunch of stuff that they don't really need. And I was of more of a, you know, my philosophy changed. Like, I don't need these things. Just, and I think if people think like that, they can do like, I can take a risk if I reduce what I need to be doing. If I reduce my responsibilities and my commitments to things I don't need, and then they can take that plunge. So I think rather than, people just need to look a way round problems rather than let problems stop them, because there's always a way round.
Yep.
So that was a bit of a waffly way of saying
No,
it.
no, that's great answer. Great answer. Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, we were speaking before we started recording about the book Stuffocation.
Stuffocation.
Which is one of the books that you've listed in your things to buy an adventurous person for Christmas. And I was looking at excerpts from the book last night actually, and it's so interesting. One of the things it says is, it is about how you, me, and society in general, instead of feeling enriched by the things we own, are feeling stifled by them. Instead of thinking of more in positive terms as we once did, we now think more means more hassle, more to manage, and more to think about. In our busy, cluttered lives, more is no longer better, it is worse. So, I mean, you know, you ran across 2 continents with a stroller filled with about 40 kilos of possessions.
Yeah.
So how did that change your relationship with material objects and items?
Yeah. First, I'll say that the book Stuffocation was actually someone who followed me on the run. We met up for a coffee afterwards, and he gave it to me. A guy called Dan gave me this book and said, "You need to read this book." So let's give him a plug on that. So when a lot of people think that setting up for an expedition like this, you get so much time that goes to planning and logistics of what you need. And I was like, well, I've got a baby stroller. I can't actually physically take very much stuff. I need a bed, I need a cooker, I need clothes, and I need some entertainment, be it books or things, computers to communicate with people and stuff. And you get into this world where every single, because you're pushing everything becomes, you have to justify everything. Yeah. So I was like countless times on this trip, I would take everything out and I'd go, do I need this? Yes or no? Get no, and then you'd find people to give it to. And there's like hotels, I would go around and say, does anyone want these trousers? Does anyone want this top? You know, I've got a hammock I'm not using anymore because I'm in a country where I can't use a hammock because there's no trees and deserts. So you kind of just give stuff away, and you do end up just reducing your life down to what is essential. Yeah. And you still allow luxuries in there, but you're like, do I really need this? Is it going to be something that is going to contribute positively to my life? And then, so that kind of, I think, ingrained this new kind of way of looking at possessions. So when I came back from my trip, I sold my flat, I bought a camper van, I gave a lot of stuff to charity. I got the smallest storage unit you can possibly get, and in there are things that Stuffocation would say I don't need. There are a lot of like sentimental things. Like when I was running through Vietnam, I bought a rug and just little things like that. But I do now live, as we were talking earlier, I have a very Spartan kind of lifestyle where, and this has nothing to do with my girlfriend, it's not her who's put this on me, but I have 3 plastic boxes in the corner of the room. One is for clothes, for current everyday clothes. One is sporting clothes, which we won't be surprised has more clothes than the normal clothes. And I have one for like personal effects. And I keep my stuff there, and then I have a couple of bags under the bed, which are different season. So if it's summer, I have all my winter running clothes. And I will quite frequently, I'll tip everything out and go, have I worn this recently? Do I need it? No, chuck it away. You don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this. And refine. But it's not just possessions, it's things like when I worked in the city, I had the best gym membership, and I had the phone was paid for by work, and everything was like, life was all tied to certain things. I now have the cheapest, most flexible gym membership because I can chuck it whenever I have no connection to it. My telephone is the smallest thing you can get. Everything is basically, I think, I'm not saying I'm Jason Bourne, but I could drop everything and leave very, very quickly. So that's the kind of life I like to lead because I don't have to worry about stuff. I do have the big worries in my life, are like a crap car, which I just have so much love for. And also I'm trying to prove a point to people that it will survive. But it is a drain. Like, I have to worry about parking permits and I have to worry about insurance and I have to, all these things that you don't need that hassle in my life. And it's not me being irresponsible. It's not me being like flippant about stuff. I don't need that stress in my life. And I watch all my friends getting bigger houses and bigger cars and then all talking about like getting higher purchase stuff. And it's like, so you have stuff you can't even afford. You're paying loans to have stuff. You're like, what happiness what is that bringing to your life? Is it making you happy? Because at the end of the day, the lights could turn off at any moment and we don't know when that's the day. And I don't want to be working my ass off to pay off something that I'm never going to enjoy. You know, you should just enjoy the moment in a positive, productive way. I'm not saying just go and lie on a beach somewhere. Do stuff that is positive, but, you know, do it for the right reasons and, not just to acquire more. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I honestly think I admire you because I'm not sure if I could reduce my life down to as minimal as you have it. But I think the fact
have you ever tried?
I've never tried.
So if you get a copy of the book, the guy very quickly, so people can understand what the book's about. Two guys, one of them's working with his father. They're in a fancy house, and he says to his dad, "How much money do I need to have for this house?" Dad says 50 grand. So he's like, puts it in his mind, and he goes out and he gets his education. And he gets to 50 grand. He buys the house. He goes, "I'm not happy. Maybe inflation, maybe all these things. Let's get to 100 grand. Maybe life will get better." He got to 100 grand, working all these hours, getting all this stuff, and he was like, "I'm not happy." So him and his friend decided to put everything into boxes and live in an empty flat and only take out what they needed. And they found that they actually needed very little amount of stuff and were happier. So that is the kind of philosophy that I've got to before I even read the book. The book is just like justifying it and probably egging me to go a little bit further, or making me feel guilty for keeping stuff. But it's a way of life. I think once you try it, it does work.
I believe one of the other things that the book kind of advocates, if you like, is what it refers to as experientialism, which is doing things and acquiring or taking part in experiences rather than the accumulation of material possessions. And is that something else that you...
I would think we can see it with so many people doing things like Tough Mudder. Ultra marathons are becoming huge, and I would say that's on two levels. I haven't put that much thought into it, but I would say that some people are wanting to escape the world of, like, we're constantly in competition on social media. No matter, I'm probably worse than anyone else, but like, I've just been here, or I've just done that, or I've just bought this, or this is amazing, look at my life. And I think half the people are probably trying to escape that and go and just do stuff that makes them feel fulfilled or gives them purpose outside a job where passion is involved. And I think there's a proportion of people who are probably like, if I can do this, I can share it on my thing and everyone will think I'm great because I did this thing. And I think there are probably those people, but hopefully the majority are people who are finding passions, and that is more important to them than owning things. It's about, because I think if you pursue a passion, you get fulfillment. If you're fulfilled, you're happy, and also you will push yourself harder. And I think human beings, it's built into us to push ourselves. That's why our society changes and grows and everything gets better and better and better and better. It's because people are pushing themselves constantly every day. And they're not, I don't think we're doing it out of necessity all the time anymore, because we're all pretty comfortable. They're doing it because they want to. They have a passion. They want to push things. They want to push themselves further and further and further, which is what life as an adventurer is, what you're trying to do. You are trying to push yourself. You are trying to push yourself against yourself, but there is no denying. You look around other people and go, wow, you're doing that? Well, I'm going to do this because I can push it harder. but I think you have to be at the heart of what you do. I don't try not to do firsts or records or anything like that, because I think that's the wrong motivation to do stuff. You should be doing it because you want to do it. That's why my run, nothing to do with records, nothing to do with firsts. It was just a really nice route. Actually, it was the easy option of 3 was the reason I did that one.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's a very humble way of looking at it. I think a lot of people that do it are probably driven by ego, whereas you clearly aren't in the slightest.
I'd love to say I'm not, but I'm sure I secretly probably do get. I like it when people like something on Twitter or Facebook, or if people go, when you get an email from someone saying, I love what you did and it made me do this, I get a feeling of satisfaction from that. It's like, wow, okay, what I did helped someone else get something, and that makes me feel good.
Yes.
I think charity is in part, you get a good feeling out of being charitable to people. And I think, so I do get a kind of thing out of it. I do get a buzz out of it.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, it's on the topic of charity. Actually, you supported 3 charities. So one of them was CAM, which is Campaign Against Living Miserably, a suicide prevention charity. It was Macmillan Cancer Care, and WaterAid. That's a sort of clean water provision. So why did you decide to select those specific charities?
So initially, I chose Macmillan and WaterAid as the 2 charities I was going to support. Macmillan, cancer, we are all going to be affected by it, either directly or indirectly, and there's nothing we can do personally to stop that. It's going to happen, and I've had family members who have been affected, and it's just a good charity that people need them to be there. WaterAid. Water is a basic right that everyone in the world should have. And the more you learn about water, and it's actually as important, it's water and clean sanitation. And sanitation is hugely important. Like when you start doing stuff for charity, you learn stuff you didn't even realize was important when you decided to work for it. So in Africa, young girls, if schools don't have the proper sanitation for them when they reach a certain age, they're too embarrassed to go to school. So by not having the sanitation, they're not going to school, which means they're not getting an education. So it's like just something simple as water can lead to a kid not getting an education. And also water for me was one of the most important things I had to consider on my actual journey, because you need to drink a lot of water when you're running through deserts. And just before I was leaving, a friend who I worked with was holding a fundraiser for this charity called Calm. I'd known about it because she'd been doing stuff, but I didn't realise what magnitude of male suicide was in the UK. And over 4,800 men take their lives in the UK every year, which staggeringly is 12 men a day. And then you've got to think of 12 men a day, so that's 12 families that are being ripped apart every day. And then if 12 people a day are getting to the point where they want to, and they successfully manage to take their life, how many people are thinking about it or suffering or on their way to that? And I looked at my expedition, I thought, well, the primary reason I'm doing this is because I'm unhappy. I can see the signs. I was drinking too much. I was going out partying. Everyone around me thought I was happy and thing because that's the outward, that's what I was projecting. But I wasn't, and I knew I wasn't happy. And I made the decision to quit and go off and do something different. And there are a lot of people who don't make that decision. And communication was something I wasn't very good at, even though I worked in communications. My personal communications weren't great, and it affected relationships and stuff like that in the past. So I was like, well, I've got so many things that tie into this small charity. I actually think I could probably do some good for this charity. So I chose that charity, and hopefully, it's helped people. We raised 26 grand. But I think it's amazing. For that charity, it's more important that people talk about it and people are aware about the problem. So, and it's charity you can carry on working for. It'd be very difficult for me to raise money by running a marathon, having everyone giving me money for running 400. So I like working for a charity that's meaningful and is not just money needing. So it actually needs the awareness. So that's why I chose those 3 charities.
Okay. Excellent.
And it's a great name, Campaign Against Living Miserably. It kind of
Yeah, I
fitted.
know.
So it basically
Yeah.
was, that's what my journey was. It was a campaign against living miserably. So.
Yeah, very much so, yeah. I watched one of your video blogs actually, and you're at a bridge, I think it's in the States.
Yeah, it's just north of Santa Barbara.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's like a known sort of suicide point. And what they've done is they've put these sort of like mesh guards or whatever you would call it, the sides of the bridge to try and prevent people. But what you point out is that nowhere is there simply a sign or a helpline or a number. You know, if you're feeling down or miserable, call this number. There's nothing like that.
No.
But to the best of my knowledge, I'm not sure that there's that sort of thing really anywhere. So I suppose my question is, what are the things that we can do in order to help suicide prevention?
So I help raise money and awareness to charities. I'm not an expert when it comes to male suicide or depression, and it's stuff I would love to be more involved with. I think the main thing that we need to do is break down the stigma related to men asking for help. I think there's a lot of people who think if you ask for help, it's a sign of weakness, and people will look at you as a lesser version of yourself because you have admitted that you're weak about something, which is the most preposterous thing in the world. Because if you are strong enough to realize that you have a weakness and you go out there to seek help to fix that weakness or whatever, or just a kind of feeling you want to get to the bottom of, that's going to make you stronger, which is going to make you perform better, which is going to make the people around you happier and everything. And part of being on an expedition, like solo expedition, solo and unsupported, I think is what I started off with saying. Solo and unsupported is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Like, I got help every single day from strangers, from family, from friends just phoning up to ask how I was, or sending me messages, or donating to charity, or people giving me stuff. And you realize that you can actually start asking for help, and you ask people for help, and you're like, I need help. I can't do this because I'm not an expert at everything. I need help with this, and people will help you. And they don't think you're weak. They feel good because they're helping you. So you're actually helping people feel good about themselves by asking for help, and everyone's happier. So it's just about breaking that stigma down, you know, the male ego kind of thing. And I think also, now that depression is a subject we're speaking about, is look at people around you, because you can tell sometimes if someone's not happy or they're excluded or they're having difficulties. Reach out to them and just say, are you all right? You know, and maybe that might just be enough to them go, okay, yeah, no, and they'll open up. So it's about just being aware, and about kind of, just being aware, I think, is the main thing.
Definitely, yeah, it's a great answer. Really good. Okay, so I mean, on your Americas run, you must have faced a myriad of challenges and difficult times. You know, can you speak about some of those and how you were, I suppose, mentally prepared or able to deal with them?
Yeah. So if it's a kind of weird situation. Before I left, you walk around telling everyone, I'm going to be doing this thing. It's 17,000 kilometers. At the beginning, it was 18, but there was an adjustment halfway down. I'm going to do this run, it's going to be 14 countries, I'm going to run across deserts and mountains and all this kind of stuff, because you're trying to get people to give you stuff, and you're trying to get people to support you, and you're trying to get all this stuff. And then you realize, I'm freaking the shit out of myself about this thing, it's so big. So you then have to go through the process of breaking it all the way down into absolute tiny little parts, so you can mentally deal with it. So you just make it a day by day thing. You're like, I'm just going to get up. One of the things I was preparing for something it was about routine, learning and improving, and self-belief. Those are kind of the things you need. So every day you'd wake up and you'd say, right, I'm going to push myself, I'm going to refine, I'm going to make myself more efficient, at the end of the day, I'm going to assess what went wrong, what went right, make the changes I need to do. And you'd look ahead and you're like, there's a 500-meter incline today, which is big, but it's not 4,860 meters that you're going to have to do, or 30 meters when you have to do when you get to the Andes. So you're sitting there, you just tell yourself, if you can't get over this 500 meter, how are you going to get to? So suddenly this thing doesn't become a challenge, it becomes a training block for what's later down the line. So you look at things differently, like And there were so many times I'd be running up a hill, like, going, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And you're just repeating in your head, you can do this, you can do this. And you just get to the top. Because you know, one thing, like for a mountain, you get to the top, there's going to be a down. So it's going to be, even though downhills were harder on my body, they were easier in terms of calories burned.
Yeah.
If you're running across a desert, you're going to appreciate everything on the other side of that desert more when you've done it, because you're kind of you're denying yourself stuff, because you know when you get to the other side, it's all going to get plentiful again. So you just have to turn things around in your head, break things down and use it as tests, and like just set yourself little targets. Like, if I make it there, I've succeeded, I'm going to help myself with that thing going forward. So that's the kind of way that I would break it down. Mm-hmm. And it's weird, we always have rose-tinted glasses about stuff. And you know, when people ask me about how the trip's, like, absolutely fine, I loved every minute of it, it was amazing. And then I go back and look at my videos, and there's so many videos of me like going, oh, I just can't do this. This is so hard. And I remembered those moments clearly now that I go back and look at the videos. But what I would do is I'd sit down, I'd feel myself being overwhelmed, and I'd sit down and go, right, Jamie, you made a decision that you did not want to be in the office. You wanted to be here. You made the decision to put you, and you knew it was going to be difficult. You know it's going to get more difficult, but you made the decision to be here, and you can quit. No one's going to think less of you, but you will go back to that place, the way you were miserable, or you can stay here and you can fight it out, and you can get to the end, and you'll be better. And think back on however many days to all the fun you've had, and all the fun you're going to have, and you just change your mental attitude, because a lot of people go, you must have the thought of failure must have crept into your mind. It's like, no. Like, as soon as you let that creep into your mind, then you're going to fail, because you'll start doubting yourself, and then you'll start making excuses, and then you'll start saying, well, I'll take an extra day holiday here, and I'll do this, and then suddenly, or I might take a lift, or I might accept that. Like, as soon as you start doing that, you're breaking your own code. And you've got to just stick to your code, stick to your routine, and just, if you're having a problem, then just change something to make that problem go away, but never give in to it. And I use the word failure in a negative way there, like failure. And I think we all think of failure as a negative thing, because we've all been told that failure is a negative thing. But you have to change your relationship with failure. I had to change my relationship with lots of things, like pain and all this kind of stuff. But with failure, you have to think, I'm not failing in the traditional sense of the word that we all attribute to it. I'm failing because I'm pushing myself to the extreme. I'm pushing myself to the edges of my ability, which is a good place to be. I'm at the edge. And by being at the edge, you know you're actually pushing yourself. So it's a positive thing. So if you come up against the possibility of failing on a day-to-day basis, then you just got to think, how do I push past it? How do I get around it? How do I change something during the day? Is it in terms of running an adventure, like, am I eating the wrong food? Am I not resting enough? Am I doing too much running? Am I not doing enough of this, that? And you just change the breakdown, the kind of the chemistry of the day, and then you suddenly will get past that. So it's all about how you think about things at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so, I mean, in terms of, again, pain's another one, dealing with pain. Like, how do you have any techniques, mental techniques or anything, or is it?
With pain, I was lucky with pain in terms of the fact that I had major injuries. I didn't have huge ones. But you kind of, the way I viewed pain is there are different levels of pain. There is the pain you get from running too much and your knee gets a bit sore, your Achilles gets a bit sore, or something happens. It doesn't stop you. You still can, your knee still works, your ankle still works, you can still move. So therefore, pain is not telling you to stop. And I think we like, something goes, ow, we go, right, but no, I'm not doing that, because there's something wrong with me. What you learn is that that's a warning light. It's like a dashboard on a car or something. It's a warning light, there's something wrong with your knee. There's something you are doing, either your shoes are wrong, or your technique's changed, or you're not stretching enough, or there is something you need to adapt and change to alleviate that problem. And you can carry on, just make a change. If your body wants you to stop, it will stop you. It can do that. It knows how to do that. And I'm not saying be stupid, because like if you know a tendon's going to break or you know something's going to snap, don't push yourself. But you learn how your body works. And I've been having it recently. Like I took a bit of time off running and my knees seized up and I was like, oh, it's just so sore running. But you push through it and you tell yourself to stretch more, use rollers, do different exercises. And then you wake up and like today did 10K run up and down, is it Blackford Hill?
Blackford, yeah.
Brilliant time, enjoyed it so much. And 3 days ago I was like, oh, my knees are hurt. So it's about just being positive about these things. Look for ways around it, don't get pushed back by it, is the way I deal with it in pain. But yeah, the stomach problems you just have to deal with. Like I had to run across 42 kilometers of desert with diarrhea. Couldn't eat or drink in a desert. And you're like, this is the most bizarre, like everything I'm doing is against what you should do as a runner. But you push through because you know when you get to the end, you can drink lots of Coca-Cola, kill everything in your stomach, eat lots of carbohydrates and stuff, and you'll get through it. But it's just like putting up with the shitty stuff because you know, no pun intended, to be able to get to the. When I was in Nicaragua, I really wanted to meet a guy who I knew was coming the other way, so I had to get to a town which was 70 kilometers away. And he was walking around the world and I was running down the world. So it was like amazing. He was same age, same background story, but he was Spanish. And we heard from people that we were going to meet. So this day, and I got to kilometre 40 and went for a pee. And it was the most painful pee I've ever had in my life. Ended up peeing blood. And I had 30K more to go. And I made the 30K. I carried on, pushed myself like, God, I wanted to be there. But it's about having that ability, like just because I had a bladder infection, as it turned out to be, it didn't mean I had to stop. It just meant I had to endure a bit more to get. And it was worth it because I got to meet this guy and we had an amazing conversation and we really hit it off. So even though we only met each other one day in our lives, I think there's a bond that was, that was just pushing through. That was just mentally pushing through the pain.
Wow. It's intense.
Yeah, but I think one of the things actually on that, we were talking about the challenges and the difficulties, and what we were talking about earlier is I think anyone who's doing something like I'm doing, it's very easy to talk about the hardships and make them like, well, I had to put up with this and I had to go over this and I had to do this and da-da-da. That's like a few days out of, I was on the road for 503 days in total, 367 days of running. That's just like a very small percentage of the days were the hardship. The rest was glorious. It was amazing. And I would thoroughly recommend anyone to go and do it. And you don't have to do the same extent, but you can just go and travel and push yourself. And there's so many different ways, but never use the scary stories as like deterrents because it might not happen to you. I never got robbed. I never got hurt by anyone. I never had any negative exchanges with people. Other people do. So just because someone else has a problem doesn't mean you're going to have the same problem. So I think people just need to take that into consideration. For
sure. So I watched an interview that you did on This Morning, and Philip Schofield asks you why. It's like his opening part, and part of your answer was, I didn't feel like I was living life. And I kind of thought about that phrase for a while. So what do you think it is to live life?
Yeah, I think that is a question that people have been pondering since the beginning of mankind, and we haven't got an answer for it yet. So everyone's got their own answer to that question. And I would, again, freely say, if you want to have kids and live in a house and look after your children and watch them grow, and that's what brings you enjoyment, that's what you should do. And if that is your passion, and your passion is the thing I think that should be the drive in our life. And I think there's a lot of people who live without passion. I think there's a lot of people who think that they can't have passion, or they think that their lives don't enable them to do certain things. And the way I'd say is, in terms of if you're working, your job should be your passion, or your job should enable your passion. There needs to be passion in one of the things. If you hate your job, but it allows you to go off and rock climb or do charity work or do something or write a book or whatever, then carry on doing your job. If it's your passion, then amazing, then you are a lucky person. But I think fulfillment is what makes you happy. So that should be your drive, is to being fulfilled as a person. And I think we've all had days where we hungover or we feel depressed or whatever, and we'll waste a day. And you can see very quickly how it would be easy to fall into a lull where you can just waste days after day after day after day. And only, like, people can tell you to get up and do stuff, but at the end of the day, you are the only person that can actually ignite that motivation within yourself to go and do something. So you have to sit up and go, I need to get out there and do stuff. And that might be reading about an adventurer or an inventor or a successful business person or someone who's doing amazing things for charity. You know, maybe there is an inspiration spark in that, but at the end of the day, you have to be the person that goes out and does it and is willing to put up with hitting barriers and, you know, be prepared for the hardships that come before you feel fulfilled. And then when you feel fulfilled, you'll be happy. So I think it's as long as you're always pushing yourself forward, that's the thing that's important. As soon as you stop, I think you stagnate. And that's where the negative things set into life. I was working in the city. I was always doing positive stuff. But I noticed I was drinking too much. Not in the terms of being an alcoholic. I didn't wake up in the morning and think I need to drink, or if I had one drink, did it mean I drank millions of drinks? But I was using it as a crux in my life. And that was the kind of thing that made me think, oh, look at this, I'm always like hungover and unmotivated and da-da-da. I need to change my life. And that's kind of what I did. But I was the person that saw that. And I think you need to be the person that acknowledges the change. People can't just say, you need to do this. You need to, they can suggest it, but it's you at the end of the day are the only person that's going to make you happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That went on to a completely different answer there.
No, it's good. It's great. So this show is very much about kind of reconnecting with purpose, is how I like to say it. So, you know, in terms of yourself, what do you feel is your purpose, and what do you want your legacy to be?
Big questions.
Yeah.
What's my purpose? I want to, very basically, I have been able to achieve something, and I want to achieve more. Like, a lot of people think, well, once you've done something huge, what do you do after that? And the question, like, no matter what you do in life, and even the most successful people will say they could have done it better. They could have done it differently. Or when I did this challenge, I never came across these obstacles, and I want to tackle these obstacles. I ran for 15 months and it rained 15 times. It was about 30 degrees, balmy most of the time. So for me, doing a challenge where it rains and it's freezing would be a great new challenge for me. So I would like to, but the reason I do these things is not so people look at me and go, you're a great person for doing these things. What I want them to look at me is go, you're just a normal bloke. There's nothing, you're not ex-army, you don't have any skills. You just went out and did this thing. Maybe I could do that as well. So and I think, you know, I'm not a deep thinking person. I'm not arithmetically great. I'm not a businessman. But I hopefully have a personality that people can think, well, if he does that, I will go and do that too. And I will push myself and I will do that kind of stuff. So, and I think, you know, you're lucky in everything you do. You get something happens that you think, wow, I was lucky to witness that. And I got to go to a school and meet these kids, and I was talking to them about Colombia, running across Colombia. And afterwards the teacher was like, these kids going to the M6 would be an adventure. They just don't leave this area. And their lives are so different from yours. And like, these people I want to inspire. I want to meet them and tell them that anything's possible. It doesn't have to be what I'm doing, but and they have dreams. The dreams can be fulfilled. You know, I'm trying to get companies at the moment. It's like, if you pay for me to come and speak to you, I'll go and speak to these guys for free. You nominate schools, and I'll go and speak to them for free because you've paid me to come and speak to you. So my bills are covered, which enables me to go and do this. So that's what I'm trying to put in place. So if I can help inspire people to be happy, then that's probably, like, I'm one of these annoying guys who runs and smiles and says hi to people, and they all look at me as if I'm a freak. But occasionally someone will smile back at you, and you know, they might feel a bit better about their life, and they might smile at someone else, and there'll be, I think if I can be the beginning of a chain reaction of positivity, then, you know, that would be a good legacy to have.
That's fantastic. I love that. That's really, really cool. Yeah.
The other way, if I'd stayed in my job, it would probably be, well, this guy did really well. He made these guys really rich. That would probably be about the best of that's probably what my legacy would be.
Yeah.
I made a lot of money making these guys a lot of money. It's a great living if you want to have that, but I'd much rather have less stuff and just be happy and chilled and everyone else around me being happy. That's that, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's like the sort of ripple effect of what happens as a result of the way that you are. It's funny, I was listening to a friend who does a podcast called New York Real, actually, and she was doing an interview with a guy called James Altucher, very successful American kind of hedge fund guy, podcaster and whatnot, and they were talking, he quoted Gandhi, be the change that you want to see in the world, I think it is, and it's, you know, by you changing your own behaviours or your actions, the effect that then comes as a result of that, because you influence your inner sphere, who then influence the people, their friends, and so on and so forth. So it's truly, honestly, I think it's fantastic, brilliant. Hopefully it'll work.
Well, so what are some of your goals now? You know, what are the things that you're aiming towards, and what are the things that you're doing at the moment?
I basically want to carry on doing adventures as much as I can, but I want those adventures to be, I want to find ways of those adventures being paid for and them being accessible to as many people as possible to be affected by them. So, you know, books, not the best author in the world, so I'm struggling at it, but I'm pushing on, and I'm going to try and get a book with my kind of learnings from that out. If TV comes available, then I'd love to do some TV programs, but I want them all to be authentic, and I want them all to be positive, and I don't want them to be gimmicky. The more people I can go and speak to, then I love speaking. It scares the absolute hell out of me.
Does it really?
Oh yeah, I hate public speaking. I dread it. And the first 5 minutes, I probably speak at 1,000 miles an hour, and then suddenly the adrenaline kicks in. I'm like, I love this, and then I start enjoying it. So I can get out there and speak to as many people as possible. And also, I'm not naive enough to think that my body's going to break down at some point, because I'm putting a lot of use through it. So I want to be able to create a kind of something around me that has longevity. And, you know, if that does come from teaching people or whatever, I want to go down that route. Or maybe I might go back to my roots in PR, but use it in a more positive for me.
Yes.
To help other people get into to fulfill their dreams. So maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. I'd like to, at this stage, I suppose, ask you a few questions about sort of success. So you kind of touched upon it earlier, but how do you define success?
I wouldn't say that there is a definitive thing which is success, because if success was what you were aiming for and you reached it, what would be the point after that? So I think what you want to do is you want to maintain positivity or not positivity, because some people might be like not being positive. You want to make sure that you're fulfilled at everything, and you read all like massive sports fans, they put everything on the field, they did everything on the track, they sacrificed what they needed to get where they wanted to be, and that what made. And the mantra that I stole this off someone off a podcast, but I listened to it and I adopted it as mine, which was be the best version of yourself. And every day we have good intentions and we don't fulfill them. And no matter, even the best person in the world has not probably thought about 20 things they wanted to change and probably did 3 of them or 4 of them or 5 of them. There are always things, you can always make your life better, and you can always, and I always find that when I'm happiest when I'm fulfilling the things I set out for myself to do. And I think success is being able to continue doing that every single day.
Yeah.
That is success, because you are in that zone and you're doing it every day. If you reach a point and then stop, I don't see that as success. And if you give up getting to that, then it's not success. So success is actually an ongoing state of your life, and I think that's what you should aim to keep going. And maybe it might change directions as you go through life, as different things become important to you. But as long as you are banging it out and that is what I want to do and I'm giving it my all, that's success. And I don't hit success every day, definitely not. I will reach the end of the day and go, I wasted so much time reading about something I really didn't need to be reading about on the internet, or watching a TV program I didn't need to watch. Tomorrow I'll try harder. And then you bring it back up. So I would say success is more like a state of being than it is a thing you should aim for.
Yeah, that's cool. It's quite a philosophical answer. I like that. Yeah, that's good.
And where that just came from.
I think you are quite the philosophical type, actually.
Oh, I don't know. I can go to a trance during interviews.
So, who or what inspires you?
This is the question I was dreading. A lot of people say that they have one person that inspires them, or one quote they live by. Or I personally don't have that, because I think there are so many different people that inspire you in different ways to be different versions. Like, everyone has strengths. No one has them all. And I think you extract the positives from all these people, and then you try and be the best you can be. You look at someone like Robin Williams, who inspires millions, but he was an incredibly unhappy person. So even though he was successful and inspirational, everything, he was also not. So I kind of just look at the people I just love people who are doing what they love doing, and you can clearly see that they love doing it, and I just want to emulate them as much as I can, but there's no particular person. And there's the more I've spoken to my dad recently, I love the quote he said. He goes, "I've never done a job I haven't enjoyed doing. If I stopped enjoying it, I stopped doing it." We never saw that as kids. He just had jobs and he wore the same suit, or different suits, probably. He's quite good with cleaning stuff. But he would always get up and go to job, and that was all I saw. I didn't know he was much that he was changing jobs, or what his drive was, or what. But then you speak to him like, God, yeah, wish you told me that when I was 20. But so I'm kind of inspired by him. I'm inspired by my big brother, who starts his own business. My little brother, who's incredibly passionate about what he does. My sister has always wanted kids. So family have always been very inspired. My mother, she's the one that's I probably take most after, because she's kind of social, and she's always active, and she's always doing stuff, and she's always she just does so many things. So family. My boss, I didn't really like my job. He was quite inspirational. Not possibly in a good way for me, but he sacrificed so much to be successful at what he did, which I don't always agree with, but that was still an inspiration to me to see it. And then I love just people like Ben Fogels and all these kind of people who do what they love doing. And a lot of people knock some of them but they had all these advantages. Hell, if you've got the advantage, take advantage of it. Would it not be worse if he didn't do those things, or that person didn't do? He got given some money. So what is he meant to do? Just not do what? That's the most ridiculous. He is in the situation, and he has advantages, and you work with what you have. And some people are luckier, and some people are less lucky, and you work with what you have, because still people who have nothing will end up higher. So there's no excuse to say that person has more than me, so they'll be better. And I think all the way through history, you'll see the people at the bottom work harder, they get to the top. So that's the kind of people who inspire me.
Awesome. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice is probably, I say it to people, is don't let yourself be the barrier to your happiness and success, which we touched on a few times. But it's very easy we can be the people. We are normally the people, the person or the thing that stops us from moving up to the next level. And I think if you're embarrassed or you're unsure or you don't have the motivation, or don't let that be the reason you don't achieve something. It's better to try, fail, learn, and then try again than not try at all. If you don't try, you're gonna, like the way I said it the other day was like, we're all told that this is our level in life. That's all you'll achieve. But once you break through that level, then there's a whole new stratosphere of things you can actually do. So, you don't limit yourself. Always push forward. Always push. And you never know where you're going to end up. And by doing those little journeys, you never know who you're going to meet and who's going to influence you, and how, if I stayed at my job, we would never met, and I wouldn't be sitting here. And that was because I pushed, and then I've met people who then talked about what I did, then talked to you, and then I'm sitting in your place. So it's kind of, opportunities only come to those who put themselves out there. And that's how they are lucky. Everyone's like, oh, he's so lucky, he gets all these things. It's probably because he's working harder than you. That's probably why he's got these opportunities. So, you can't sit around and wait for something to come to you. And if it does come to you, grab it, take advantage of it, and use it to its full potential. And remember, there's a lot of people who don't have the advantages. So you have a responsibility to maximize it. So if you're privileged, use it to the best. So that's what I'd say.
That's a brilliant message. I love that. Yeah, I can relate to that in a lot of ways as well, actually. So, yeah. So if you had an opportunity to speak to the 20-year-old you, what would you say?
Don't be scared. Because I think being scared of change, being scared of doing what I wanted to do for me, held me back for 14 years after that. I'm not saying I regret those 14 years. I had a great time. But my life would probably be different.
What would you have done differently?
I sit there and go, like now I sit there and go, yeah, I'm not one of these people who was like in the army and did all these things. Actually, I think on hindsight, I would have probably been quite good in the army. I really like routine. I really like adventure. I really like pushing yourself. I really like there's so many opportunities in the army. It might have been a good thing for me. I don't know, but it might have been. I was going through a rebellious stage where I hated anyone with authority in my life. I was a crappy teenager who was always like doing ridiculous things just to rebel against pretty much mum and dad. But so I didn't go into that kind of thing. But I think it's because I was scared. So don't be scared.
So the implication in what you just said is that you don't mind authority now, is that right?
No, I don't mind authority because I don't mind responsible authority. I think that if people are above you and they're telling you to do stuff for your own good and to help you and to protect you and to help you flourish, that's something to, if it's oppressive authority, it's something that needs to be changed. So yeah, it's like in everything. There's always good and bad. So positive authority is a good thing.
I like it. If you could change anything in the world, what would it be and why?
Wow. I would like people to realize what they have. It's something that's irritating me at the moment, and I'm again as responsible as everyone else. But in a world where the UK is becoming more insular, America's becoming more insular, there's horrific things happening around the world. There are people complaining about their lot in life, like with 4G mobile phones, Sky television. Everyone expects to be entertained 24/7 now. We all want the best. We all go to cinema all the time. We all go on holiday like 3 or 4 times a year. Even like people who can't afford will like take loans and go on holidays and all this kind of stuff because we expect all this stuff. We are like a tiny percentage of the world. They don't, we should be grateful for what we've got and be trying to help the world come up rather than us trying to continue to push ourselves, even higher and higher to the stuff we don't need. So I think I'm not like trying to be communist and like everyone should be equal and everything, but I think I don't like anyone can have anything in the world and do whatever you think you need, but enjoy it and recognize it and be appreciative of what you have. If you start like acting as if you're hard done by because you've only got a BMW and someone else has got a Ferrari, like your life there's something gone off wrong in your life. You know, as long as you have a vehicle that gets you from A to B because you need it, then there's no problem. So I think I'd like there to be more self-awareness about what we have. That's probably. That's a great answer. It reminds me, I was watching a video recently. I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. No. Great name though.
Yeah.
Great name.
He's now kind of a celebrity in the States. He's a sort of personal development guy who's got his own agency and did a lot of YouTube wine library TV is how he started. But one of his videos recently was like, you're a human being, you've won the fucking lotto. You know, you're not a tree, you're not a bus. It's like,
that's really true. Yeah.
It's just like we're blessed to be what we are on this planet with all these opportunities and abilities and it's you know, you're right, it's about embracing that and making the most of it and not complaining about you know being hard done by. And there's like little things like the world, because there's so many things that we can choose from and to indulge in, and all the information's there. Like I know that eating a ridiculous amount of sugar is gonna make me ill, make me not run as quickly, is going to affect my mind, my motivation, and all this. And I still eat like heaps of sugar every single day. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, so we all have this knowledge. We just need to act on it better. And I'm worse than anyone. So, you know, it's all like drinking and smoking and all these kind of things we do. We're just being so ungrateful for the abilities that we have. Like, the body and the mind are exceptional, and we treat them like crap. But well, a lot of us do. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Jamie, it's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege speaking to you.
It's been fantastic fun.
Yeah, it has. I mean, I could go on here, but I mean, your energy is incredible. You know, you're so charismatic. I absolutely love it.
That's very kind.
But equally, you're such a humble guy, and I think what you've achieved is fantastic. And I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you very much.
I can't wait to see where you go.
Yeah, well, hopefully I'll do something else big and then I'll be back here again and we can talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Excellent. Thanks very much for having me.
You're welcome, Jamie. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for taking the time to watch Inspired Edinburgh. If you enjoyed watching this video, I'd really appreciate if you'd like and share it. You can also sign up to our mailing list and social media channels using the details coming up on your screen now. If you have any feedback or suggestions, please feel free to comment. Until next time, reconnect with your purpose and inspire others.